What are the things that you're doing? What are the things that you're doing that you don't like doing, particularly? And what's the motivation behind doing them? The general formula is, oh, I'm doing it to get some feeling or to numb a feeling. I'm turning on the TV and watching it for hours to shut down is what it looks like you're doing. But there's a second thing going on is, well, I'm shutting down because I don't want to feel X, Y, Z. And there's a part of my brain that's that tells me you don't want to feel this. So go do this instead. But we usually don't see that part. We're taking it surface level. Oh, I just feel like sitting on the couch watching TV. We're like, well, that's shut down. But day after day, that's like, you're not really being alive. You're not being healthy. You're not like, is that the life I want? Consciously, no. But it's not you that wants that. It's a part that wants you to do that. What do you want? Okay, then you start looking at this part that's making the decision, telling you to shut down, and you go. So again, moving outside, observer, we're part of the watching that part that's making that decision where you've divided your will and consciousness and now you're waking up from it and go, it's probably trying to escape something, it's trying to avoid something. What's underneath? And let's recapitulate that energy and get it back. And the first step is awareness, acknowledging that it's there. And go, this is what's happening as best I see it. And it may take several journal writings. Okay, I noticed this part. I notice a little more specifically. And then the next day you're like, oh, it's still there, but now I see another aspect to it. Oh, and now I see the feeling it's trying to avoid. It's trying to avoid boredom, or it's trying to avoid anger. It's trying to avoid shame and unworthiness. Okay, so now I see the part that's making the decision and the emotion it's avoiding. Okay, now what's the source of that emotion? Let's deal with it directly so we can get the energy and power back. Okay. So today's lesson is one of the ways you get your power back that you can use for motivation and create the vision of life you want is you have to go into existing beliefs, existing motivation and program patterns, and notice where your energy is stored and unwind those beliefs and agreements. Get your power back, release the emotion that's stored there, and you're free to choose the life you want. The notion that you can just go, oh, I'm going to go decide to go do this, and you do it is all well and good until you run into these unconscious beliefs and you have to go, oh, well, here's the sabotage. Here's why I don't follow through. Okay, now let's go investigate. What is that? Um, yeah, we have so much. There's other ways to gather power. Let me get into a series of gathering power, but with gathering power, it's one of the biggest ways to gather power is to go into these kind of agreements we have about what are we currently doing? What agreements do we have about it? Getting the energy and power back from those agreements will make it easier to then build new directions and create the vision you want. The old Toltecs called it erasing their personal history. to where you don't have any, you're not living by habit, you're living in the moment. So it was for me, one of those was one of the big lessons was when Miguel had us do fasting. We did 40 days of like very all through Lent, very clean eating. We did it a couple of different years for different purposes. Very clean eating. It was no alcohol, oils, meat, dairy, very limited dairy, no sugar. So I was just basically vegetarian, a lot of rice and beans and vegetables and fruit. Very clean. Um, and then on top of that, I think we'd spend Friday just water. And it was when we went to just Fridays just water, my mind was in this huge protest and fear. No, I'm going to pass out. I'm going to get hangry. I'm going to uh, blow up at people. Uh, so lots of fear, lots of projection of stories of how terrible things is going to happen and body will collapse, won't have energy. And none of that happened. But it was very interesting to see how much energy was stored in my mind about what I said I needed to eat, what would happen if I didn't eat, uh, how bad things would go. I had all this energy stored in there that I had no idea. That was telling me how much I had to eat, when I had to eat. And it was when I just plain changed the habit, I got to see all this energy that was behind my habit of eating, when and how much. And I just, because we did as a group, just broke the habit. And all these agreements about food showed up. All these agreements about emotion and energy showed up. That all just, we willed the change to happen, and the agreements had to break because we weren't going to live by them. And that was shocking how loud and convincing it tried to be and be absolutely not true. How much you could see your mind completely lie to you. Or for me, how much I could see my mind completely lie to me. And day after day, I would see it was telling me things that weren't true. It would have big panicky things about not eating. And then I just like, okay, I'm hungry, but I'm not going to eat. I'll just drink some water. Drink some water. Yeah, hunger pain went away for 3, 4 hours. And I'd be really hungry again. I'm like, okay, well, I'll drink some more water. Got busy doing what I was doing and the hunger went away. I was like, well, after a few times of that, I'm like, well, it's not as bad as the mind says it is. Okay. Well, how many other things is it saying that's not true? Most of them, almost all of them. So I got a lot of power back by changing the habit. Perhaps we'll do that later, do a cleanse. Lent's a good time.